Hello, I'm Joe, and the Jurassic Park sequels are actually pretty good. I'm talking about The Lost World and Jurassic Park 3 specifically. We don't talk about the other ones. While Jurassic World was a solid monster movie, I take umbrage with the assessment that it's the only good Jurassic sequel. Jurassic World was a fun, entertaining ride. While it didn't boast the thematic depth of Jurassic Park, it was as good as you could expect from a 2010s reboot. Until a few years ago, I was also in the camp of J-World being one of the only good Jurassic sequels. What changed? Well, I visited my best friend in Japan, who also happens to be one of the biggest Lost World apologists. We rewatched Jurassic Park, which naturally led to The Lost World, which then led to us going, we might as well watch JP3, we already here. And upon this rewatch, I realized that the sequels weren't that bad. In fact, they were actually pretty entertaining. So, spoiler alerts for some 20-year-old movies, and with that out the way, let's get into the why of it. The Lost World Jurassic Park was released in 1997 to great anticipation. It was the first film Spielberg had made in the 4 years since the original Jurassic Park and Schindler's List. Given the mammoth critical and commercial success of the original, all eyes were on The Lost World to see how it would live up to or even surpass the original. Upon its release, the movie received mixed critical reception, with many feeling that it was a step below its predecessor. I'm not going to make the argument that The Lost World is better or even as good as Jurassic Park. It's not. But it's still a lot of fun in its own right. After the events of the first film, things have just been turning up Millhouse for John Hammond. In addition to things going woefully out of control on Isla Nublar, a hurricane hits the nearby island of Isla Sorna, where InGen initially cloned the dinosaurs. This results in the dinosaurs being set free and roaming the island as wild animals. Obviously, nobody outside InGen knew about this, and when a rich family docks on Isla Sorna, their little girl gets her shit wrecked by a pack of compies. This incident results in Hammond losing control of InGen to his nephew Peter Ludlow, who wants to capture the dinosaurs on Isla Sorna to launch Jurassic Park, San Diego. I guess that's one way to compete with Disney. In a rare instance of a rich dude actually learning a lesson, Hammond is against the idea and thinks the dinosaurs should be left alone in their somewhat natural habitat. He recruits Ian Malcolm to go on an expedition to document the dinosaurs in the wild to make the case for the preservation of the island, to which Malcolm responds, "Hell no, to the no, 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 hell to the no." So Hammond has no choice but to rebuttal with, "I got your girl on my island, cuz. Now what you finna do?" That was a verbatim quote. David Koepp was really in his bag on this one. Malcolm reluctantly goes to the island to save his girlfriend Sarah, played by the always excellent Julianne Moore. Richard Schiff is here as a gadget guy, and Vince Vaughn is here as a saboteur, I guess?
I should tell you guys, Hammond told me these people might show up. I thought we'd be finished by the time they got started, but in case they weren't, he did send a backup plan.
What backup plan?
Me?
Look, I enjoy Vince Vaughn. Brawl in Cell Block 99 was great, but I just didn't buy Stringer's era Vince Vaughn as environmentalist Rambo. Oh, also, Malcolm has a daughter who does gymnastics and secretly tags along to the island. So, while Malcolm is on his reluctant rescue mission, we also follow a group of big game hunters who have been tasked by InGen with wrangling the dinosaurs for transport to San Diego. The group is led by Pete Postlethwaite, who is just crushing it.
Peter, if you want me to run your little camping trip, there are two conditions. Firstly, I'm in charge, and when I'm not around, Dieter is. All you need to do is sign the checks, tell us we're doing a good job, and open your case of scotch when we have a good day. Second condition, my fee. You can keep it. All I want in exchange for my services is the right to hunt one of the tyrannosaurs. A male, a buck only. How and why are my business. Now, if you don't like either of those two conditions, you're on your own. So go ahead, set up base camp right here, or in a swamp, or in the middle of a wreck's nest, for all I care. But I've been on too many safaris with rich dentists to listen to any more suicidal ideas. Okay?
Man, we lost a good one right there. Also, Peter Stormare is here as Dieter. The plotting is a little wonky at first, but the movie really takes off after a joint T-Rex attack. The big game hunters kidnapped a baby T-Rex in an effort to bait the mama Rex. Sarah and the crew find out what's happening, and that's when Vince Vaughn comes through with,
What backup plan?
Me?
Anyway, after sabotaging the camp and capturing the baby Rex, Sarah and Vince Vaughn try to put a cast on the baby, which of course means the parents show up. Coming through with the energy of both your parents going to a parent-teacher conference, knowing your ass ain't shit. So obviously things go haywire, and this is one of the first great set pieces of the movie. The tension is just so well executed. The RV gets tossed off a cliff, they're trying to survive, and the T-Rex is split Richard Schiff like a goddamn Kit Kat. Couldn't be me. After the chaos subsides, the second team finds their heroes and the two groups have to join forces in order to survive the island and get to an abandoned engine facility to call for a ride out. It's in this stretch where the Lost World is really cooking with gas. The structure of the first movie was built on the idea of systemic failure. There's a built-in illusion of control that gradually breaks down in rather dramatic fashion. In the Lost World, there are no guardrails. There's no sense of control. From the moment they land, they're at the mercy of the island, and the set pieces do a really good job of conveying that. Even the great initial hunt sequence with the posters drives home the point that no matter how much equipment they bring, they are not in control here. To paraphrase Dr. Ian Malcolm, it's chaos. Unlike Jurassic Park, where all the different parties had different objectives to accomplish, this is a movie about pure survival. The characters are largely reactionary, but it's a solid choice motivated by the circumstances they're placed in. Spielberg's traditional sense of wonder is replaced with tension, terror, and some other adjective that starts with T. Every time the movie gives you a moment to catch your breath, it's immediately followed by someone getting their shit absolutely wrecked. There's a playfulness to the mayhem that really works for me. The long grass sequence where the raptors are hunting the hunters is easily one of the best sequences in the whole franchise. The wide shot of the hunters running as you see the raptors rapidly closing in, the hunters getting trapped one by one, this guy getting taken out from the top rope, all of it is just so much fun. The playfulness can get a little hokey at times, like when Malcolm's daughter Kelly defeats a raptor with Chimkata, but overall, I had a lot of fun with the second act. Janusz Kaminski's expressive lighting is on full display, simultaneously evoking the danger and beauty of the wild, and some of the camera movements are downright delightful, such as Sarah's Rube Goldberg gas escape from the raptors. So, by the end of the second act, our heroes get to the choppers, make their way off the island, and this should pretty much be where we end, right? Things went horribly wrong, people died, the case for Isla Sorna being made into preserve is pretty much open and shut. You'd think that, but nah. So, despite literally everyone telling him this is a bad idea, Ludlow holds a press conference announcing the successful capture of the T-Rex and the opening of Jurassic Park. This goes horribly wrong when the ship holding the T-Rex crashes into the docks and it's revealed it somehow killed everyone on board, including those on the bridge. The T-Rex escapes and goes on a rampage through San Diego to find its baby boy. The sequence is fun initially and a solid precursor to the monster movie trappings the franchise would embrace in the next two entries. I can tell Spielberg is having fun with the sheer novelty of doing King Kong with a dinosaur, but the sequence ultimately goes on too long and it's surprisingly devoid of tension. At a certain point, you just can't help but go, damn, that's crazy, to everything you're seeing. Malcolm and Sarah are off trying to capture the baby T-Rex to lure the mama Rex to her holding cell, so a lot of the action happens separately from our main characters until they get into a car chase with the T-Rex. The whole sequence is a bit wonky, and according to Wikipedia, so take it with a grain of salt, the finale was changed weeks before production began. Considering how disjointed it feels from the rest of the movie, I believe it. So, Malcolm and Sarah manage to subdue the T-Rex, Ludlow gets himself wrecked in the process, and by the end, Isla Sorna is declared a nature preserve. So now that we've got all that out the way, let's talk about the good and the bad. As I've already stated, I think the core of the movie is a lot of fun. Like, a lot of fun. The cast across the board is solid. While Vince Vaughn didn't quite do it for me, he wasn't bad in the slightest. Spielberg is a modern master, and even his worst movies are usually better than the average director's best. There is so much panache and detail in every frame. The shot of the T-Rex's silhouette against the tent and the tension of that scene is just so damn good. The wonder of the dinosaurs is gone because both the audience and the characters have seen them before. We all know how bad this can go, and the movie makes a smart choice to lean into the terror and complete lack of control when confronted by nature. While not as structurally sound as its predecessor, and it can be a little messy in the beginning, the story itself still played with some interesting themes. It has a pronounced environmentalist bit, with the plot pitting those who want to preserve nature against those who wish to exploit it. To say The Lost World is devoid of ideas is not accurate in the slightest. Besides, we know what a Jurassic movie without ideas looks like. And it looks like locusts. Jurassic Park is a masterpiece, the ideal that all blockbusters strive towards. It had spectacle, intelligence, emotion, and thematic depth, as well as being technically groundbreaking. And in terms of sheer fucking audacity, the only blockbuster that can really match it is the first Matrix film. So yes, The Lost World is nowhere near as good as the original Jurassic Park. But in the 30 years since, how many spectacle-driven movies actually have been? Exactly. Taken on its own terms as a movie, The Lost World's a damn good time. The plotting can be messy, the third act requires some real suspension of disbelief, but overall, The Lost World is a better watch than its reputation would suggest. So with that, let's move on to Jurassic Park 3. Now I'm not gonna hold you. This is probably my favorite of all the sequels. I'm a Joe Johnson guy, what can I say? While The Lost World strived to match Jurassic Park in terms of intelligence and thematic depth, Jurassic Park 3 does not even feint at having similar pretensions. It's a capital B movie, and it's a goddamn blast. The movie opens with Eric Kirby going parasailing off the coast of Isla Sorna with his mom's cool new boyfriend, Ben. Cause there's no better way to establish dominance as dad number 2 than putting your not stepson in mortal danger. Obviously, this goes wrong, the boat is ravaged by unseen dinosaurs, and the two have to make an emergency landing on the island itself. From here, we briefly see Dr. Ellen Grant just fucking simping for Ellie Sattler, who's not married with a kid. Got her a government official, good for her. He goes and gives a lecture about velociraptors in an effort to raise funding for his research, but no one cares and they only want to talk to him about the events of Jurassic Park. His head hung in abject failure, Grant goes back to his dig site where he links up with his protege, Billy, who's 3D printing a velociraptor larynx. While at the site, he's approached by Paul Kirby, played by the always welcome William H. Macy. Paul and his wife Amanda try to entice Dr. Grant to give them an aerial tour of Isla Sorna. Grant is initially hesitant because of the whole... But when Paul offers up a blank check Grant can put towards his velociraptor research, he ultimately relents. So, Billy and Grant hop on a plane with the Kirbys and some friends from church and make their way to Isla Sorna. Once there, Grant tries to give the aerial tour, but it's immediately clear the Kirbys are preoccupied with something else entirely. When Grant hears that they intend to land on the island, he very reasonably freaks the fuck out, which unfortunately leads to him getting knocked the fuck out. When he wakes up, he finds they've landed and learns the Kirbys are actually there to find their son Eric, the parasailing boy from earlier. Almost immediately upon landing, shit goes south. The hunting party the Kirbys brought with them immediately gets wrecked because, obviously, they're friends from church. They try and get back in the sky, only for a Spinosaurus to pull up, eat this guy, and send the plane careening into the jungle. And from here, everything gets off and poppin'. The Spinosaurus quickly established itself as the movie's big bad by just killing the T-Rex in front of everyone, saying, "Yo, this my movie now. My movie." From here, the Kirbys, Dr. Grant, Billy, and this guy try to survive the various horrors of Isla Sorna while trying to find Eric. That's it, that's really the plot. Like, it's far more straightforward than The Lost World. Once they get a quiet moment, Grant sucks the shit out of Paul, who reveals that he and his divorced wife are actually a middle-class family who are looking for their missing son. As they search the island, they find the decomposed corpse of Ben. Amanda naturally freaks out, and Billy proves he's a real RPG nigga by looting the corpse for the parasail. Eventually, they stumble across an engine laboratory where they bred the dinosaurs. Of course, they're only here for a brief time before some velociraptors pull up and completely ruin their day. The group gets separated, with Grant and this guy going one way and Billy and the Kirbys going another way. I know this guy has a name, but considering he's reduced to raptor bait and then killed, he evokes big this guy energy. So after Old Boy is ganked, Grant notices that velociraptors seem to be looking for something. He tries to leave, but the raptors pull up on him, which is when Eric comes through with the tear gas and saves his ass. This kid was playing Dino Crisis IRL, I'm low-key jealous. The next morning, they reunite with the Kirbys, which quickly leads to the funniest Spinosaurus reveal. They manage to narrowly escape the Spinosaurus, which is when Grant asks to look in Billy's bag. Billy gets mad defensive before relenting and reveals he took some velociraptor eggs to sell in an effort to fund the research. This dude Billy stays looting. Parasails, raptor eggs, I'm pretty sure he's got some material in Phoenix Downs in that bag too. Actually, given how this movie ends, I know for a fact he's got some Phoenix Downs in there. After this reveal, they enter an aviary, and this begins the strongest set piece of the movie. Obviously, an aviary in a dinosaur island can only mean one thing. Family. Wait, sorry. Wrong Universal franchise. Pterodactyls. They're pterodactyls. They're doing pterodactyl things. The baby dactyls are trying to eat Eric. But luckily, Billy's scavenger ass had that parasail just in case this exact, very specific scenario went down and saves Eric. It's silly, but damn it, I'm a sucker for silly. In saving Eric, Billy gets taken down by the pterodactyls and seemingly dies. The remaining group makes their escape on a boat and we barrel to the finish. While they're cruising downriver, they hear Paul's satellite phone go off again. They realize it's in a pile of Spinosaurus dookie, and thus begins the worst Double Dare physical challenge ever known to man. After finding the phone, they make a call to Ellie and let her know they're trapped on Isla Sorna. As this is happening, the Spinosaurus pulls up yet again to start some shit. He really is the Debo of dinosaurs. They scare him away after using a flare gun to set fire to gas that began leaking from the boat. They make their escape, thinking they're finally about to get off the island when the Velociraptors pull up one more time. Grant gives them the eggs that they've been looking for, and remember that 3D printed Velociraptor larynx? He uses that to scare them off and confuse them. The raptors leave, they get to shore, the military pulls up, and oh, look at that! Billy's alive. Told you had some Phoenix Downs on deck. And with that, the original Jurassic trilogy concludes. I think Jurassic Park 3 is probably the most fun of the sequels because it's the simplest. The stakes are clear and the structure is clean. It's a rescue mission set within the trappings of a monster movie. The script was apparently unfinished when shooting began, which explains the rather straightforward nature, but I think the family dynamic is strong and I like this more jaded version of Grant we get into. Considering not only the trauma of Jurassic Park, but the way it's pretty much derailed his life's work, the world-weary take makes sense. Joe Johnston does a great job with the set pieces, making them equal parts inventive, silly, and exciting. The pterodactyl sequence is easily one of the standout set pieces in the entire 6-movie franchise. The Spinosaurus is just as imposing as the T-Rex before it, and by and large, everyone is giving a solid performance. Not to mention, at 90 minutes, the thing moves at a clip and knows when to end. It doesn't boast the thematic depth and Spielbergian grandeur of the first movies, and a lot of the interesting techno-thriller aspects left to the wayside. You could make the argument that it should have been a standalone monster movie, as opposed to a Jurassic Park flick, giving its relative lack of interest in the series' core themes. Also, none of these characters are going to be memorable. Nobody's going back and being like, man, remember the Kirbys? We should bring them back at a new one. I think a large reason why I can appreciate the sequels more now is that A, I'm 30, and I realize that, good or bad, my taste in movies is neither a reflection nor solid replacement of an actual personality, and B, we now have sequels much worse than the ones that came before. When you can only compare the sequels to the masterpiece that is Jurassic Park, of course they're gonna fall short and feel shitty. But when you have the double whammy of Fallen Kingdom and Dominion, well, Alan Grant and Ian Malcolm's Island Adventures become a little more palatable, because while they may not live up to the high mark Jurassic Park set, they do have one thing the Jurassic World sequels are sorely lacking: personality and incredibly memorable set pieces. So with that, I'm Joe, and you just experienced wonder.